Hello guys and welcome to the Chelsea Perspective membership section. I am Matt and I'm doing another wonderful video for you today. We are doing the first episode of the Chelsea Stadium Debate, episode 1, which will all be about the Stamford Bridge rebuild. Now before we start, I'll give you a little bit of an introduction of what this series is going to be about. So this is going to be a 3-part video on the Chelsea rebuild at Stamford Bridge, what that will entail and the pros and cons to that. Episode 2 will be detailed on the Earls Court site itself, the only other viable alternative to Stamford Bridge at this moment. And then episode 3 will be on my opinion and a bit more on the Chelsea pitch owners, who we will get into in the next 2 videos, of who are an important stakeholder within making this decision. So before we get into it, let's get right into it. Make sure you guys refer as many of your Chelsea friends for this membership, very cheap membership, and you get quality series like this. And to get more series like this, please do join the membership, and then we will get a wonderful amount of analysis videos that I will get to in due time. So let's get started. 1 minute and 26 minutes in. So rebuilding Stamford Bridge, the outline of it. The rebuild project has been going on since mid-Roman terms, 2010, 11, 12. It's been reopened with the owners, Todd Bowley and Egbali, who said at the beginning of them owning the club that they want to build a new stadium for Chelsea. Whether that is Stamford Bridge or a new site is yet to be determined. The idea for the Stamford Bridge site is the current stadium, Stamford Bridge, will be knocked down along with the Stoll site, which is a veteran housing site which was bought by the owners back end of last year. That is adjacent to Stamford Bridge, and what will likely happen is the stadium will be slightly rotated to fit into both of them sections. And the Stoll site allows a bit more of a bigger area for Chelsea to build up to 60,000 seat stadium. The numbers on how big the stadium will be has been varying. Some say that only 10,000 extra seats will be able to be built. Some are saying it could be up to 60,000. Some have said it could be up to 62,000, although them sources are very few and far between. So I'm saying 60,000 is probably the highest that we will get in that stadium. It is a project that is highly liked by a lot of people. It is a project that I probably would say is the most likely. We'll go into the pros and cons of each one to say which one will potentially happen, why one is a bit more easy than the other. But let's get into the pros and cons. So what is the pros of staying at Stamford Bridge and rebuilding Stamford Bridge? Well, first of all, for you guys that love Stamford Bridge area, love Fulham Broadway, love the surrounding area, and are a bit sentimental and want to stay on the home ground of Stamford Bridge, that will be the case. The Stamford Bridge will remain where it is. It will still feel like Stamford Bridge, all right. It will be a different stadium structure, but it will still be Stamford Bridge to you because it's in the exact same area. It's in the exact same drinking areas. You'll take the exact same route to the game, and everything like that will feel like you're still at home. The second pro is that there will be a lack/no hold up by the Chelsea pitch owners that do own the pitch, the name on, and I believe the badge of the team, which obviously in return will mean the process in getting this stadium done will be a lot quicker to do. There'll be reduced problems of planning permission, which will come under the fact the stadium's already there, so the residents kind of know how the stadium's going to be. Obviously there will be potentially increased crowds and increased noise, but I think that's easier to deal with residents and a council that know what's going on, have seen what's happened. It will require less persuasion to be done, and I think the council will benefit from an increased size of the stadium, as we will go into in the cons and further explanations of it. Overall, the project is believed to be cheaper, the cheaper option out of rebuilding or going to a new stadium. I've seen from a few sources, I think Will Pugh did an episode, a good series on some of this, and said that it will cost up to 600 million to rebuild Stamford Bridge in its current site, which involves knocking it down and expanding. Obviously, it's unclear. Costs could rise up to 1.2 billion, depending on how much they want to knock down and how much they want to redo the stadium, whether the stadium will keep the same sort of structure and then just expand, or whether they will choose a whole new design in itself. But predominantly this will likely be cheaper to do than going to another site. That is the pros of Stamford Bridge, and there are plenty of pros there. Now let's have a look at the cons. And I think the big one for me is 60,000 seats. While that is an improvement and that is a lot of seats, that's an extra 19,000 seats to be increased for the fans, I still think it's limited, and it's maybe not limited now. I think 60,000 seats is enough, is more than enough to solve the immediate issues for Chelsea fans right now. But I fear that this will become very outdated within 20, maybe 30 years' time. And when I say outdated, I don't mean the design. The design might not be outdated. The design will probably be controversial to most people, as all stadiums are. But what I mean is, with the growth of football, 60,000 seat stadium is kind of a must now for most people. And that's where teams are building up to and expanding their stadiums. But the problem is, that is the most we can get out of this site. Say we expand here and we get to 60,000 seats, and that's great, fantastic. Well, in 20 years' time, when the need for football stadiums, and if football becomes as ever financially bound as it is now, if the need comes to that the big clubs all have 80,000 seater stadiums, then we can't rebuild on that site anyway. So we'll spend all this money potentially on this new Stamford Bridge, but when it comes to re-expanding, you can't do it again. So you're going to have to spend even more money to go to a new site anyway. So I think it's the future looking into this, where it's good in the short and medium term potentially, but you might not get the long-term benefits that people are thinking. And sometimes you've got to look at this as a 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80 year thing. This new stadium, if it goes to a different area in its 80,000 seat stadium, then you can build this stadium, and this stadium will be around for years and years to come. If you've only got a stadium that in 20 years time it's going to get outdated and you have the same problems again, then I think that's not a good benefit for us. It causes us even more problems further down the line. And I think we need to look at that in a bit more detail and realise the consequences of that. As I said, there's no bit that the building restrictions at Stamford Bridge means that we can only build 60,000 seats. The reason is we can't expand upwards because they're due to ancient monarch law, effectively, which means so there's certain monuments and viewpoints that from Buckingham Palace that are meant to be undisturbed, and in this case there is a specific church that is able to be seen by Buckingham Palace now. But if Stamford Bridge was to upgrade and get bigger upwards, that site would be blocked, so therefore it is illegal in this country to do that. So Stamford Bridge cannot build up. They cannot build around the sides because there's not enough space, whether you've got the train line and the cemetery, whether you've got the residential areas, which will cost a lot to get people out of. I mean, the Stoll building was a problem, but that's now less a problem. We can't build anymore because then you've got the train station there, you've got King's Road. There's no space to expand outwards after the expansion that we do. And then you can't build downwards because I think you've got the train line, underground line on the side. But I think there's also key infrastructure that is below the stadium that means we can't even build down. We are massively restricted in what we can do. The stadium will feel a bit cramped in the area because I think they're going to try and use the space as much as possible for the stadium, but that might not be a benefit and comfort to fans in general. Another disadvantage and con is that we won't be able to play at Stamford Bridge while it's being redeveloped, and that will mean a lengthy move to either a Wembley, to either a Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, to either an Emirates, or even worse, maybe beneficial for me because it's a bit closer to me, a London Stadium, which I think will be a problem potentially for the CPO itself, because I think they also have decision rights over that and they will have an impact in that. And that has been an argument over people for many years of where we're going to play if we're not playing at Stamford Bridge. Whereas obviously if you are building a new site, you can play at Stamford Bridge the entire time. So that is another problem, and that is the other big problem. So you've got benefits and cons to this Stamford Bridge project. That is it, pros and cons. Let me know what you guys think. Are you for the Stamford Bridge rebuild? Obviously, episode 2 will cover the Earl's Court site in a bit of detail for you with pros and cons as well. But let me know, guys. Like this video and check out episode 2, which will be coming out very soon. Actually, I'll be recording it as soon as I finish this and as soon as I've got a drink to help with that cough. Guys, again, refer your friends to a membership. We'll see you for episode 2 for Earl's Court. Keep the blue flag flying high. Up.